What people think happens with their expenses is that their expenses will just stay in a flat line. That's supposed to be a flat line. Will stay in a flat line like that. And their income will go up like that. So we'll put income here so you can see it. And this is expenses here. And what they think is this gap in the middle is their savings. So the more they earn, they're just going to keep spending the same amount of money, and they're just going to increase all of this cash in here. That's not what actually happens. What actually happens is you spend to your income. And this is 99% of people who are chasing more income. Their income, they're not starting at zero, so it goes like this. So this is their income. As it increases, guess what happens? They start justifying longer holidays. They buy the pro versions of things rather than the normal versions of things. They get dessert and a starter when they go out to eat meals. They eat meals more regularly. They eat at more fancier restaurants. Instead of buying cheap Prosecco, they're buying, more expensive bottles of wine because they're enjoying that more. And so what actually happens is their expenses go like that. Their income goes like that, and their expenses normally go like this as well. So to your point before, where you're talking about that client, that gap in the middle of how much they're actually saving and what their surplus is in here practically stays the same as they earn more of that. So they don't want to be doing any of that. Instead, what we want to be doing is this. We want our income to continue to grow. If you can make more money, great, but let's not flog a dead horse over it. Let's assume that our income is more stable growth like this. And our expenses, so that we don't get a shock to our lifestyle, instead of them being following the income line, what we want to do is over time, step them down like this. And so that gap then that we've got in here grows over time. We're increasing our savings. We can pay that off the mortgage. We can invest it. We can have more fun. We can do more holidays, all of that sort of stuff. But this here over time will maximize that surplus between the income and what the expenses are. And that's really what we want at the end of the day. Because if we go and we just put the expenses all the way down the bottom here, then there's going to be too much of a shock. You're eating ramen noodles. No one's going to be happy with that. And you won't stick to it.
Yep.
It's a bit like, just going on a lemon detox diet for 7 days. It's not going to work. So this is the approach that we have with our clients.
Sustainable.
It is more sustainable, and it's easier to get started because once something's moving and starting, all you got to do is just keep doing the same thing. This is a key concept that we talk to clients about. Do you have any stories or anything to weigh in here that you're seeing from a practical angle?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we do that concept with our clients, and a lot of that, and how we do it in practical terms with our clients is we assign every dollar that they make and list that into different buckets, and we figure out categories for that specific client. Every category is different depending on what their priorities are at the time. For example, of a client of ours, they like traveling, so we have a bucket purely for traveling, and that's part of their expenses now. $100 every week goes to that, so every year they have a money in bucket for traveling. The other common buckets that are more kind of known to everybody are like their debt paying off, their mortgages, their bills, food and lifestyle and things like that. We assign that to different buckets so they can practically and see everything that they're allocated for, and it's very hard to go over budget that way too.
Awesome. So let's talk. I've got another example of that I can draw on the iPad here.
Awesome.
Let's talk about, this is really basic, right? So that people can understand the concept of it. Effectively, what happens is everyone should start with at least a couple of different accounts. How we structure these depends on the circumstances. If you've got a mortgage, what your goals are, all of that sort of stuff. But the concept is that you need to create a system that makes sure that you can run that every week. It's not spending hours and hours and hours each month looking backwards and going through a budget, because that doesn't work. It needs to be live, and I need to be able to look at it right now and make a decision. Can I go out with my friends? Can I buy that nice extra bottle of wine at the same time as reaching my goals?
Yep.
So how we do that is we set up a couple of different accounts. Let's assume that we've got some income coming in here. and that comes into an income account, which we don't spend from. Immediately on payday, that cash goes across into the various different envelopes or the different accounts. And so the 4 that I suggest that people start with is, the first one is debt. So if you've got a car loan, if you've got credit cards, that all goes out to pay those. So car, credit cards, or any other loans that you've got. Once that debt's to 0, then you can reallocate and change the percentage of income or money that's going into that, and you can reallocate it to the other ones. But that's the concept of it. So that's the debt one. The second one is just general bills that you've got. And so with this is, electricity, gas, car insurance, those sort of things go in there.
Yep.
Yeah. Phone bills, you calculate all of that. You build up that account, and then doesn't matter whether it's through the month or the quarter, the cash is just sitting there. So you don't get any bill shock when it comes in. The third one that we suggest as a starting point is for groceries. So that's for grocery shopping, not takeaway. That comes out of a different envelope and a different account. But for groceries, to actually go to the shops and do your weekly shop. And the last one that we always suggest is a fun bucket. And so that's for money that you can spend guilt-free. You can go out with your friends. You can have a nice meal with your wife if you want to, or if you don't.
If you want to, I love that.
Like a date night. Yeah. If you don't like talking to her, then I don't know, maybe you get a side chick or something like that. No, that's not advice. We're not suggesting that happens. But that's the fun account that you can do and you can spend without question. How my wife and I have set this up is we have a fun account each, so we're not arguing or talking over what I think is fun compared to her.
Yep.
And then we have a joint one for the family. So I've got money that I can just blow on anything without asking. She's got money that she can blow on anything without asking. And then as a family, we can decide how we want to spend that cash. Now, what's missing from this is a whole bunch of other accounts or segmentation that you can set up based on your situation. You can have, holidays. You can have an emergency fund. You can have just general savings. You could have, a fund to pay for university for the kids, whatever that relates to your goals. But the concept is having these different envelopes so that the money comes in, it goes out, and it's all allocated.
Not rich.